Silver for me is really about that barterability piece because it's universal. My eggs are also barterable from my chickens, but maybe somebody's allergic to eggs or they don't eat eggs, right? So it isn't that is anything physical is barterable, but silver as well as gold, both of them are universally accepted. So that's why it's critical to have it. And I would use the opportunity right now when things have eased up a little bit to go ahead and lay in your position if you haven't done so, or add to it if you haven't done so. Well, part of that depends on your circumstance and what you have to work with. Personally, I've been accumulating for a very long time. Do I have enough? No. I probably have more than pretty much anybody else I know, but is that enough? No, because if I have excess fiat money, what am I going to do with it? I'm going to fill those holes, all of them. So, I converted my swimming pool with chemicals into an aquaponic pond so I can, first of all, I can drink that water, doesn't have chemicals in it. I am going to put it through my filter, but I can grow food from it, right? And that was expensive in terms of fiat, but what's your health worth? So, we have to look at that. I don't think you can have too much, because where are you going to, if you have excess fiat, where are you going to put it? In the stock market? You going to go out and speculate with real estate? In the bond market, where you are definitely not getting paid in any one of those markets for the risk that you are taking. So my personal preference as a technician, and having done this for pretty much my entire life on different levels, my personal preference 100% of the time is to have the lion's share of my wealth in an undervalued asset that is in a long-term positive trend, and the least amount of my wealth in an overvalued asset or instrument, which is what the markets are, that is in a long-term negative trend. And keep in mind that nominal confusion is hiding the real trend, because as the stock markets, the bond markets, and the real estate markets are going up, what real estate kind of straddles both. So I'm really talking same thing with gold and silver, that they've turned into fiat money products. The hard asset is not going away. This house was built in 1929, and it's been around that long, and I'm thinking if I do my job well, it'll be around another 100 years. But its value in terms of fiat is going to fluctuate over time. Right? So I would rather have my wealth in an undervalued asset, that's in a long-term positive trend. And I can say technically, looking at the charts and the graphs on a long-term basis, without any hesitation or doubt, that is both gold and silver. The rest of it is based on the dollar, the euro, the yen, the Singapore dollar. And if you look at the purchasing power value of any single one of them, no exceptions, this is what you see. So the instruments that are valued in those currencies, that's the real trend. Not the way they make it look like on TV, or, pumping all of this extra money in it to make it look like it's going up. 1 trillion times zero is zero. And I don't think that any one single country will hold that title. Obviously I could be wrong about this, but my personal sense, and this came up in 2009, China actually brought it up, was the SDR, special drawing rights, which is the internal currency of the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, which was actually created in '69 to take over as the world reserve currency from the US dollar at that time. But that is, right now it's a basket of currencies, and they can expand that basket to include all currencies if they want to. And so I think that the SDR is highly likely to be the world's reserve currency. Additionally, one of the mechanisms that they created back in '69 and then tested in 2009 was the substitution fund. And what that means and what that fund is anybody that's holding dollar-denominated instruments like bonds or dollars or anything like that can deposit them in this substitution fund, and then the IMF will convert that into SDR-denominated instruments, currencies, etc. That really accomplishes two things. Number one, it would mean that the SDR becomes like almost instantly, universally utilized in a very large way. Number two, in theory, then it also enables the IMF to determine the rate and speed that dollars would come back to the US. So perhaps attempting to hide that transition. But, having said all of that, I think that we are in for hyperinflation on a global basis that will burn everything out. So I don't even know if the substitution fund, frankly, really needs to be utilized. If they were trying to do an orderly transition, yes. But I personally, I think it should be obvious to everybody what lies ahead with all this global, unlimited, infinite amount of money printing. That it cannot end well. Even universal basic income. If you're going to get paid $4,000, $8,000 a month to stay home, why are you inspired to go get a job? Unless, of course, your cost of living goes up a lot faster than that, which it will. No doubt about it, it will. You can't give and then take away. It just doesn't work like that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens the end of July when that extra $600 bonus for unemployment, is that going to be extended? Is it going to be dropped? Because even those few companies that are attempting to hire, why would they accept less income than they're getting on unemployment? So a lot of companies that are even attempting to hire are having problems. No, you can't take that punch bowl away. And guess what? The punch bowl for the Wall Street is still way bigger. I think somebody did a stat, so don't hold me to this because I didn't crunch these numbers, but I believe the ratio is like 98% is going to Wall Street and larger corporations, and only 1 to 2% is going to Main Street.